When William Samoei Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, took oath of office, he swore using a Bible that he would protect and uphold the Constitution of Kenya. But that is not the case. We have seen William Ruto's continued defiance of orders from the court and doing things that are against the law, basically acting with impunity. And when they are asked, they are full of selling fears to Kenyans. The other day, we saw in a church how the Chief Minister Musalia Mudavadi was telling us that we should respect Ruto, we should respect the institutions, because there are other countries where people don't go to school, the countries have collapsed. And when people were scrutinizing, we realized that anytime the Kenya Kwanza government has been cornered, instead of taking the bull by its horns and face the challenges, they resort to threats and selling fears to the country. Now, yesterday, the Deputy Speaker, Gladys Boss Shollei, was in Citizen TV, and they were discussing Ruto's defiance to follow court orders. And Gladys is telling us that in other countries, when judgments are made against government policies, some of her friends from other countries are asking whether the judges who rule against the government policies are still alive. In other words, telling us that when you rule against the executive, then you need to be killed. Kindly listen to what Gladys was saying.
Isn't it within the Constitution for any person who has a challenge with what the government is implementing to go to court?
No, but the president did not request that the court should not entertain it. He was saying we find ourselves in this situation. And by the way, in Kenya is the one place where we are actually, this is very active. Kenya is a case study of such a, vibrant democracy where it's only in Kenya where you can have a major government policy being halted by the courts. In fact, one of my friends from another country said to me, so they stopped the government policies. Then they asked me, so is the judge still alive? So in other countries, it takes a different direction. But that is the beauty and the resilience of Kenya, that you can have government policies being questioned in the courts.
Right.
But the discourse at the moment is to what extent can that happen?
If you listen very carefully to the statements from Gladys Boss Shollei, you will realize that the statement is very deliberate, because she's telling us that some friends are telling her that if you rule against government policies, then maybe she's suggesting you should be dead or you should be jailed. Why is there a deliberate effort to compare Kenya to failed states or states that are about to fail? William Ruto has said that he was overwhelmingly voted to be the president. And so we expect government officials to start comparing Kenya to states that are successful in terms of their democratic space, in terms of economy. We do not want to entertain a situation where whenever there is a problem and the government is cornered, they start telling us, there are countries where people can't go to school, the countries have collapsed, there are countries where a judge cannot rule against a president. These are deliberate efforts to sell fear. Just like I'm telling you, in a church one day, Mudavadi was telling us that we should respect Ruto. There are countries that people can't go to school. They have walked and traversed the whole world. It's something that we're not going to accept. These government officials are entertained by taxpayers' money. As this discussion was taking place, William Ruto was caught pants down once again. As William Ruto has defied court orders. I think last year, William Ruto made appointments to KRA. He appointed Revenue Service Assistants, 1,400 Kenya Revenue Service Assistants. And the appointment was full of favoritism because it was found out that two communities had dominated the appointment, and this case went to High Court. And the High Court nullified those appointments because it was found out that it was favoring the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin community. Now, it is unbelievable that even as we speak today, those Kenya Revenue Assistants are still in office and they are working and earning salary, despite the fact that the court had nullified the appointments and ordered that William Ruto relook into that and make a clean appointment that reflects the face of Kenya. And this found itself to the floor of the House. And Jack Kwamboka, the Bumula member of parliament, was very mad at this, and he was saying that maybe we need a law that will compel the government, would compel the executive arm of the government to listen and respect court orders.
We spoke about the appointments that were done at the Kenya Revenue Authority. In this House, a matter was taken to court where, Honorable Speaker, almost 70% of people who were recruited at Kenya Revenue Authority came from 2 communities. The matter went to court. The court stopped the appointment of those people. But what worries me, Honorable Speaker, as we speak, those people are working. They're in the office. They're in the office. Impunity of the highest order. If the administration cannot listen to this House, if the administration cannot listen to the courts, then what country are we breeding? Honorable Speaker, I support my brother and say we must come out with more punitive laws to support this constitution. That if an appointing officer does not adhere, does not do that which the spirit of this constitution envisioned, what must be done to that officer? Because these people are appointed by people. We come here, make noise that they have appointed through obscured ways, but at the end of the day, nothing happened. For us, in the committee of this House that I chair, Honorable Speaker, we are growing towards very punitive measures. That if you are a head of an institution and appointing authority and you don't adhere to the law, we will recommend to this House that you are not fit to sit for that position. And I'm happy the tone, the spirit of my brother, my good brother, I'm happy coming from the government side, my brother, this is what we are talking about. When we were in the leadership the other day, we spoke about resources, allocation of resources. That is why people fight. That if Raila Odinga is not the president, I will not have my fair share. If William Ruto is not the president, I will not have my fair share. We must stop. And it begins with us and this House. And I want to urge the House that let's develop an unpartisan approach to these issues. Honorable members, at the end of the day, we are members of parliament.
It is quite alarming, and I wonder how Gladys is telling us that courts go against Ruto's policies. As a matter of fact, when the High Court decides to halt Ruto's policies, the higher courts will always reinstate them. SHA was in court. It has been reinstated and given a clean bill of health. Housing levy. You could talk about the financial bill 2023 and 2024. The GMO. Everything that William Ruto wanted has been reinstated and given a clean bill of health in favor of William Samoei Ruto. And so when Gladys is telling us that it is only in Kenya where you can question government policies, then we take it very seriously, because it seems that all the judges that try to question are always being threatened, are always being given a warning. This is why on a national TV, she's telling us that in other countries they're being questioned whether those judges are alive. I mean, we should be very serious. Now, the second reason why it raises eyebrows, William Ruto himself has threatened the judges, has threatened those who take his policies to court. And I remember him saying that when he was being sworn in, he was given a sword. And that sword was to ensure that he deals with those who are not reading from the same script as he. And this tells you that these are not just statements. The government, the Kenya Kwanza government, is very serious. It is either their way or the highway. Because, ladies and gentlemen, when a court declares a verdict, it must be respected by the powers that be. Remember, William Ruto's stay in power was given by the Supreme Court. And therefore, we also expect the president to accept and obey court orders without threatening and causing them to rule on his favor. And let me tell you, soon, and I think it has happened, Kenyans have lost faith in the courts. If you do an opinion poll, even from where you sit, if you're watching this channel, do you trust the courts? From the High Court all the way to the Supreme Court? I don't think so. Or Kenyans have lost faith in the courts. Courts first suffer from trust deficit. In fact, the whole of this government, whether it is the judiciary, the executive, and the legislative arm of the government, all of them suffer because people don't trust them. They are being controlled. The other two arms are being controlled by the executive arm of the government. The problem with a nation that has lost faith in a court of justice is that people will take law into their hands. It trickles down. That's why you realize that sometimes when people catch suspected thieves, they lynch them because they know that even if the suspects are taken to court, money will exchange hands, corruption and favoritism, and they will be left scot-free. The thieves will come back to you. On Matters election, it was found out by Kriegler that the reason why people butchered each other in 2007, they didn't have any credibility, that they didn't trust the courts. Because they knew that you take a case to court, it takes years. By the time they are ruling on this case, the president has established himself and is entrenched. And that's why the Supreme Court was established. But even with the Supreme Court, things are not different because the Supreme Court always works to entertain the executive. They really don't look and scrutinize the will of the people. They always overturn the will of the people. And so my concern today is that William Ruto continues to disobey court orders, defies them, and Gladys Shollei tells us that the courts should not question, because indirectly that is what she was saying. And I think it is high time that we call out on the government officials to stop threatening Kenyans, to stop comparing us with these failed states, to stop selling fear. Kenyans are good people, and we believe that if we have the right policies in place, then things will work out. But we should not be gagged. And William Ruto must always obey our constitution.